you doing? I hope you guys are still on point because we've reached the final segment of our tutorial, and this is chapter 4, which looks at sensory systems as well as perception. So psychophysics was established in 1860 by Gustav Fechner and is an aspect of psychology that studies how a physical stimulus within the environment is converted into perceptions as well as psychological experiences. Stimuli can be simply defined as sensory input from the environment that are processed via our sensory organs such as our eyes, our ears, our nose, our mouth, and our skin. Now, sensation is a physiological process of taking in raw physical energy from stimuli via the sensory receptors of our different sensory organs. And then we have transduction. This is a sub-process that occurs during sensation, whereby raw physical energy is converted into sensory neurological signals. And then ultimately we have perception, and this is a psychological process whereby sensory neurological signals that reach the brain are selected, organized, and interpreted. Okay. So people see, hear, taste, smell, and feel in similar ways, but we perceive stimuli in different ways because remember the golden rule of psychology? We are all unique, okay? But we have 3 factors which are responsible for this, okay? The functionality of our individual sensory systems. Secondly, the different types of stimuli that occur or that we encounter in our environments. And ultimately, our unique contexts and experiences. A threshold is a point at which a stimulus triggers a response. So when we look at stimulus intensity, this relates to how intense a stimulus has to be in order for it to be detected. Okay? Therefore, absolute threshold or an absolute threshold is the weakest detectable stimulus. Okay, when we look at the JND, also known as the difference threshold, this aims to identify the lowest intensity of stimulation needed to create a noticeable difference between stimuli. Looking at the signal detection theory, it basically asserts or acknowledges the absolute threshold and JND theories, but emphasizes that psychological state or the psychological state of one influences the detection of a stimulus. So it proposes that an individual can be an active decision maker in making perceptual judgments and detecting signals, okay? And that detection can be influenced by a variety of factors because remember, we are unique, okay? And we're also active role players in our lives. Right, now when we look at subliminal perception, sub means below, limin means threshold, okay? And then neuroscience offers evidence of conscious and unconscious mental processing within the brain. Sensory adaptation occurs when stimulation sensitivity gradually weakens due to extended exposure of specific stimuli. Basically, when you're in the kitchen, like I am right now, I've been cooking such a scrumptious meal, but because I've been here for such a while, I can't even smell the meal. But when I actually started cooking, it smelled like heaven, okay? But because I've been exposed to such a long time, my senses sort of weakened, okay? My senses of smell or my sensitivity to smelling the scrumptious food that I cooked weakened. Right, so the visual system, okay? Visual stimulus is light, which travels in the form of an electromagnetic radiation wave, okay? Height influences brightness perception, while length influences color or shade perception. Saturation is the term used to identify the perception of color. The eye has 2 major functions, guys. It's the transportation of stimuli to the necessary receptors, and it also forms part of the process of creating images of the visual world. So we have routes from the eye to the brain, okay? So stage 1, light enters the eye via the cornea. Stage 2, light waves travel from the cornea to the iris via the fluid called the aqueous humor, okay? And then the iris is a colored circle-shaped part of the eye and is made up of muscles, whereas the pupil is an opening at the center of the iris that allows light to enter into the retina. Okay? Accommodation is a process that enables you to view objects that are near or far by accommodating the lens to refract light waves for a better visual focus. And then during stage 3, light is refracted by the cornea and lens onto the retina. Okay, in stage 4, the retina plays an important role in visual perception or visual information processing and initially captures an upside down image. Therefore, during stage 5, visual receptors convert light into electrical impulses, where rods and cones convert light into electrical signals via transduction. Rods and cones also contribute to adaptation. We have your light and your dark adaptation. Okay, light adaptation, here the eye becomes less sensitive to brighter light, whereas during dark adaptations or dark adaptation, your eyes become less sensitive to dimmer lights. And ultimately in stage 6, electrical impulses travel to the brain via the optic nerve for vision to occur. Okay, right. So looking at the visual cortex. Okay, the visual cortex consists of simple cells which respond to rays of light that target cells in a particular direction as well as orientation. Complex cells, on the other hand, respond to more complex rays of visual stimuli and shapes. Okay, this is the last part that we're going to cover when it comes to the visual system, and then we're moving right along swiftly to the auditory system. Okay, so just note that sound utilizes air as a traveling medium and is measured in hertz. Sound waves are characterized by amplitude, wavelength, and purity, which perceive loudness, pitch, as well as timbre respectively. Okay, so your ear can be divided into 3 sections, namely your external ear, which depends on the vibration of air molecules. Your middle ear depends on the vibration of movable bones inside, as well as we have your inner ear, which depends on waves in a fluid that are converted into a stream of neural signals that are then sent to the brain. Humans can hear sounds ranging from a low of 20 hertz up to a high of 20,000 hertz. Remember, we spoke about dividing our ear into 3 parts. You have your external, your inner or your middle, as well as your inner. Okay, your external ear consists of the pinna, and then your middle ear consists of ossicles, namely your hammer, your anvil, and your stirrup, which amplify tiny changes in air pressure. And ultimately, your inner ear consists of a cochlea. Right? Looking at our theories, because you know, as scientists, we like to compare and contrast our theories and come up with theories that we feel are better, because we want to modify other people's theories and just show off. Okay, so looking at our theories with regard to the auditory system, the first one we look at is the place theory. The place theory asserts that perception of pitch corresponds to the vibration of different portions or places along the basilar membrane, whereas the frequency theory asserts that perception of pitch corresponds to the rate or frequency at which the entire basilar membrane vibrates. Okay, so be able to compare and contrast. And guys, I know this seems a bit complicated and it seems long and scary, but I hope I summed it up as much as I possibly could, you know, and I hope everything is a bit simpler now. So just watch these videos as many times as you possibly can in order for you to just keep replaying, you know, the information in your head over and over again. I wish you nothing but the best, guys. Slay all day, as I usually say, and love and light.